Here we are again, folks. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. So proud to be with you today. Listen, this is the day the Lord hath made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. Wow. Man, is there any better thing that we could possibly do but get up in the morning and rejoice in the day that the Lord hath made? This is wonderful. Do you know how that you can be happy? Jesus said you can be happy if you're poor in spirit. Well, what we have to do is we have to bury, or not bury, but put off or put away this thing called pride. Pride is what stops us from doing what God would have us do. That we would be proud of what is in this flesh. The Bible said this flesh is rotten, it's stinking. Everything that we think or do outside of Christ is pride. And we do it so that we would be not looked upon from within ourselves. Pride is like a rotten apple in a barrel. Do you know what a rotten apple in a barrel would do if you leave it alone? It will rot every apple around it in the barrel. And many other things work the same way. And pride works like a rotten apple. It said those who are humble-minded. Can you get humble-minded? Where are you going to get humble-minded? Not so much in the brain as you are first in the heart. You get humble-minded in the heart, and then you can get your brain to come along with you. And who has given God the rightful place at the center of their lives? Where do you give God a humble place at the center of your life? You start with your heart and say, God, I want my heart to be pure. Well, do you want to know something? You take an adversary on. When you want your heart to be pure, you got to fight the devil 24/7. But you know what? If you'll put God in that place and let Him fight the devil in you, then you can have victory. But one of the first things we've got to get rid of is that pride that we have in us. To be meek. This is what Jesus said. Be meek and lowly. He said, I am meek and lowly. He was meek and lowly. He was God in the flesh, came down to show you and I that He Himself could come down in a fleshly body and be meek and lowly. The most powerful being that ever, as a matter of fact, He's the only being that ever was forever. And He came down to show us how to do this. He said, those who yield all possessions, all personal goals, listen to that, all personal rights to God, and therefore look upon what they have as loaned them by God to do His work and to be in His glory. He loaned you and I this fleshly life on this earth for a little bit of time. Just, the Bible said, man is like the grass. He's up today and he withereth again tomorrow, withereth away. What are, if you and I, as human beings, were to live 100 years on this earth, what is that to God? But a second, but a second, but a second. But He wants us in that second to do His will. I can't help but yesterday listen again to the book of Nehemiah while I was working all day. I'm listening with this little thing in my pocket to the book of Nehemiah. One man with faith. One man with faith. In 52 days did what took somebody else 50 years. In 52 days, what did he have? He had the faith that God gave him. He acted on the faith that God gave him to act on. And by acting on it, God showed him that. Do you know what you and I have in our natural bodies? We have anger. We have anger in our natural body. We have greed in our natural bodies. We have greed. Look at this. We also have bitterness. You say, well, Brother Peter, how long have you been a Christian? Since November 5th at 3 o'clock in the morning, 1972. Do you still have greed? I have to fight it. What else do you have besides greed? Anger. I have to fight anger. I have to fight the things that come upon me from the outside and those that come from the inside. If you let the outside and the inside get together, you got you a bad spark. You got you something sparking outside of the spark plug it's supposed to be plugged into. The spark plug you're plugged into is Jesus Christ. He showed us that he didn't have anger, except righteous anger. When he turned the tables over and did the things in the temple was righteous anger. He didn't have unrighteous anger like you and I would have. We've got to be very careful that those who yield all possessions, all personal rights to God, therefore look upon what they have as loaned to them by God for his work and his glory. I'm afraid that if we're not careful, we will forget that it's for his work, for his glory, and not ours. Why, we're piddling little old peon human beings that God put down here to use. You and I could sit down and watch the ants go and come, headed to their place to put up their storage there for the winter. The Bible said, look under that ant. Look at that ant. He's not toiling in the sense of the word like for anything other than the magistrate. That queen down there, laying eggs for thousands and thousands of other ants. This is what we're supposed to toil for, the magistrate. Listen, we sat in churches. We sat in churches with people who have not yet got the picture. Got the picture. I sat in a church myself for years and not yet got the real picture sometimes. The real picture is to win those around us. To win those around us. Do you, on a daily basis, we're painting at a college right now. I'm a paint contractor. We're painting at a college. Everybody at that college knows. All of the workers know. I don't care so much about the higher echelon that doesn't care about me, doesn't care about God, doesn't care about those things. He's happy with his education. He thinks he has arrived. Little does he know that he has not. But the yard man, the man out there trimming the trees, he knows who I am. I know who he is. I know he's saved morning. The man driving the trash truck every day. One of the most spiritual fellows that I've ever met. He's in the Bible day and night. The guy doing the floor. He's kind of a little bit indigenous, but he's one of the most spiritual guys you ever meet. He meditates on the Lord. He knows God. Some of the yard men up there, the people doing other things up there, I've talked with them. I do what God said do. Do you know what God said do? Let me be known through you. Are you letting God be known through you? If God's known through you, I went on a cruise one time. God woke me up in the middle of the night. He didn't wake me up. I just stayed up. It was nighttime. I went out there and I found a person working on the steps, shining the steps. A person shining the handrails. The people up in the kitchen, cleaning the floors, cleaning the machinery, cleaning everything. Down in other quarters. What did I have? I had a nighttime of total enjoyment from talking to people about their souls, and did they appreciate it? And did they say, you know something? You're the first person to ever talk to us about our soul. Man, Christians on a cruise and people don't know they're Christians? Something is wrong with that picture. Dead bad wrong with that picture. If we're Christians, People ought to know it. You know something else that holds us back is bitterness or resentment. Can you as a person look in your heart today and say, I'm God's person, but you know that guy did something against me 20 years ago? Well, you can forget worshiping. You can forget worshiping. You need to get that bitterness out of your heart. Man, that's like having a little bit of water in the gas tank that got in the gas line, that got to the carburetor, and the engine's sputtering, and you're sitting beside the road, and you can't seem to get the car back running. What happened? That little bit of water got up there, and it stopped the whole process. You got a little bit of water in your spiritual gas tank? You got a little bit of bitterness in your spiritual gas tank? You got a little bit of resentment in your gas tank? What you got in there? You spiritual man. You got to get it out. You better get it out. You better find it. You better get your little sponge and say, I'm going to get this out of here. Jesus is the sponge that will get it out. Listen to what he said. Those who fully forgive all who injure or offend them and return love and understanding. So you've had your little old pride offended. You've had your, well, he says so-and-so about me. So what? Sometimes it wasn't even true. Well, who cares? Who cares? In the scope of God, all these little things are like water in a gas tank, drops of water in a gas tank. They make you sputter. Well, quit sputtering. Get the junk out and get going. You only got one life. And you know what? It'll soon be past, sir, ma'am, child, boy, girl. It'll soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. I guarantee it. Listen to this third thing. Merciful. Getting this bitterness and resentment out. That's what you need to do. Get it out. The fourth thing, he said, be pure in heart. Be pure in heart. Hey, those who make things right with everyone whom they have wronged, and by their example are able to guide others to do the same. Do you know that I have 2 or 3 people in this world, if they should happen to see this, that I have wronged, that I'm working on getting some things right? Do you know the closer to God you get, the more He'll show you some little old thing from 30, 40 years ago that you might need to find that person if they're still alive, or their relatives or somebody, and say, hey, I did wrong back then. The way I was living, the way I was going, the way things were, I did wrong. Sometimes not even intentionally, but by force. And I need to take care of that. That's called doing away with moral impurity. Moral impurity. We need to be pure morality. Our morale needs to be pure. Jesus' morale was pure. All the way right to the cross. When he said he's hanging now in nails and through his feet and his hands, they beat him, they scourged him, they stuck him in the side. And he said, Lord, my Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Wow. Do you know that we're still piercing him in the side when we don't do what he says to do? We're still the ones that are hitting those nails with a hammer when we don't do what he says to do. When we don't put down these things, we don't put down pride. The evidence of violation of spiritual things is that we have pride in our life, that we have anger, that we have greed, we have bitterness, we have resentment. We allow these little peon brains to go immoral, to have immorality, to have impurities. You must fight this. You must fight these things of the world. You must fight what the devil might put before your eyes. And you must bring it under where? Do you know something? If you're a child of God, which I am, which many of you are, you can bring condemnation on a daily basis under your mannerism and your way of life and smite your own heart and give yourself a guilty conscience. And with a guilty conscience, that's a guilty heart and a guilty conscience, you ain't worth a dime. You're no good to God. You can't do right. Listen to this. Those who make things right with everyone who they have wronged, and by their example are able to guide others to do the same. Peacemakers. That's what we are. God said, blessed is the peacemaker. That's what we're supposed to be. Peacemakers. He said if there's any conflicts, there are 5 areas we can have conflicts in. In this very human body, we can have conflicts in many areas. Lack of spiritual interest. I think this is probably one of the biggest ones that we have today in ourselves. A lack of spiritual interest. Man, I get out of my car. We're at a college. Get out of my car in the morning. I'm walking up to the go to work. You can get one of these. Would you hand one of these to a professor? You don't know. He might be the dean of the college. You say, I'm going to hand one of these, and it was the dean. He's going to run me out of here. Who cares? Who cares if you get run out of a junky college because you're standing up for Christ? Who cares? That doesn't matter. What matters is you do what you're told. You pass these out. This says that if you died right now, would you go to heaven? Is there a more important question? Is your pride more important than the soul of a man that you meet? We went to church last night. After church, we went to a place and got a little bit of food. And we gave the girl at the register a tract and spoke to her. Then we got gas. And we gave the person at the gas station one. Had a good conversation. Somebody who would like to know Jesus. Had a good came back out. The guy pulls up behind me in the truck. I gave him one, talked to him. How simple is such a thing that it can't be done by everybody? It can be. If your priorities are in the right place, your heart will be in the right place, your life will be in the right place, the power of God will be on your life to unsew a mouth that's sewed up in pride. The only reason, listen to Brother Peter, the only reason you're not doing what God said to do is you're too proud. You're so proud of yourself you won't even stand up for God. The one that saved your wretched soul. The one that made sure that you won't go to an eternity in hell. Can you imagine hell being total fire and a soul that can't die? Can you picture yourself in a great huge ball with no fire? But somebody starts rolling that ball. And you're screaming and hollering, hey, don't roll that ball, I'm in here, I'm in here, I'm in here. But he can't hear you. And he's rolling that ball, and you're running for life. And about 6 days later, it's still rolling, and you're running for life, and you're saying, hey, don't roll that ball anymore. And there isn't even any fire. And there isn't even any torment from the devil. And there isn't anything. It's just you totally exhausted, but can't quit running. And otherwise, you'd just be tumbling. Can you imagine? That's what hell's like, only it's got fire with it. And you'll be tumbling. And you'll be screaming. And you'll be crying and you'll be hollering forever. And you're not willing to tell somebody about it? Something's wrong with your salvation. Something's wrong with yourself. You've got a broken link. You yourself may be in danger of that fire, that hellfire. Wouldn't it be awful to sit in a church for 40 years and die and go to hell because you ain't really committed? You never really committed. You say, well, you know, Pete, I got baptized in 1930. Are you going to get to heaven with a soul? Are you going to bring something there with you? Jesus said, I cast out those who are in utter darkness, who have not brought something to the table. He gave you the ability and the right and the right. The right. Can you imagine having the right from God to be able to tell somebody about Jesus? You've been given that right. You are the most privileged human being on the earth. And you keep your mouth shut. And all you think of is a little pleasure. Yes, we're on this great big ship, the world, floating through space. They talk about sending that spaceship up, floating through space. We're on a world floating in space. But we are the ones that are supposed to control this world instead of letting the devil have it. We are supposed to hunger and thirst after righteousness. Listen to this. Those who have a healthy spiritual appetite for God's word and the principles received from it, looking with spiritual interest and regular devotion. What is regular devotion? You know what regular breathing is? It's every second of every minute of the day, when you're awake and when you're sleeping. Regular breathing. You cut that off, you faint. Spiritual breathing is telling others about Jesus Christ. Spiritual breathing is proving what you say you are. And doing it. And doing it. You got to get clean. You can't breathe spiritually if you're not clean. I got to quit leaning on this thing. It's not stable yet. Listen, we have got to wake up. You know, I've heard that expression, wake up and smell the roses. We've got to wake up and get filled with that Jesus would have us to have. Look at this right here. Mourn, he says, mourn. He said, those who allow God to break their heart with the things that break his heart and thereby gain his goals for their lives. Man. You know what's wrong with us today? We have a lack of purpose. We have a lack of purpose. We have a lack of seriousness. We have an ineffective prayer life. Do you have effective prayer life? I pray continually. Some people would wonder, why aren't you at these prayer meetings? Why aren't you at this prayer meeting, Peter? I'm praying continually. I'm praying continually. I'm praying continually. If I'm up in the morning, when I'm laying in bed at night, are you continually hooked to God? Are you plugged in and you're never unplugged? I plugged in 1972 and I've never been unplugged. Do I have to get in the closet sometimes? But my closet is right here in me. I'm speaking right here in front of you, and at the same time, I have a prayer life going on. And this prayer life has faith. And this faithful prayer life is looking for greater things than human man could see in this day and age. If we're looking for it physically, if we are looking for it by conjuring up ways and ideas and all of that, forget it. If we're looking at it from a prayerful standpoint, we will be a Nehemiah. We will be a Peter who walked on the water. We will be a Jeremiah who got pulled out of the well by faith, who was stuck down there. Hey, we'll be a Gideon who can take 300 men and run off hundreds of thousands. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be God's man in this day? You say, Peter, you're a little old peon painter out of the past. You ain't worth $1. Who? Beside a man who's got all kinds of things in the world. But that's not the thing that counts. What counts is what am I worth to God? You know what I'm worth to God? Only what I'm obedient to do. If I'm obedient to do it, then God's going to bless it. I've got one of the most godly Sunday school teachers that ever walked on this earth. And he gets in his prayer closet daily. He gets up there and he studies and he brings us a lesson that he took a week to put together. And he prayed about it. And he calls 40 people every week individually and say, I'm praying for you. I've got you on my mind. What about that? That's something. I'm not that stewardess with a group of people. But Lord runs people through my mind, runs things through my mind. I would like to be as stewardess as a tick is. What is a tick's life? A thing that falls out of the tree, a little old bitty thing, that will get on anything that's alive and bite it and hang on and suck the blood out of it for life and keep going. And I'm scratching and itching right now. I've been working down on a campground we got, and I came home the other night and I believe I had 25 of them little old ticks on me. You know what they were doing? What they're supposed to do to stay alive. And as Christians, we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do to be what we're supposed to be. If somebody's aggravated by you, be like a tick and aggravate them. Aggravate them until they say, listen, I think I tell you what I'm going to do. I say, what is that, sir? I'm going to come out, I'm going to be at church Sunday, so you leave me alone. Good. Good. I did what God told me to do. And look, this is what we've got to do. We need to fall in place. Working at the college. I read the other day a piece of paper at the college, and this piece of paper said orientation. And, I wrote it in my Bible. Orientation. It said, define your future. This is why we're here at college for, to define our future. What are you going to be? What are you going to do? What are you going to be in the world? You're going to be this, a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist. What you going to be? You starting your first day today in this college so that you can be what you want to be. Wow, ta-da. 98% come out of that college ain't going to be what they thought they were going to be. So I said this. For ourselves as Christians, we need to define our spiritual future. What is your spiritual future going to be? It's going to be what you are now. If you don't orient yourself in to being what you're supposed to be already, your spiritual future is in danger. So orient yourself into it. What is the book of orientation? Is it a whole bunch of stuff in a classroom? Is it a whole bunch of stuff in a bunch of books written by a bunch of secular people who themselves perhaps missed heaven completely? There is only one book of orientation, and that is God's book, the Bible. That's the book that we need to be in of orientation. Who is the advisor? A bunch of secular people? that can't even associate with you because you're a peon, you're a painter? I wouldn't associate with that painter. I'm way up here. I have scholastical training. Well, ta-da! I heard two guys speaking. I was visiting a friend who was in the institution up the street from us. And I heard two guys that were working on him, speaking together. One of them said, I don't even speak to the lower class. If they're not up where we are, I don't even speak to them. I wouldn't give them the time of day. Well, ta-da, that man doesn't know it. But he's going to head and bust hell wide open. With all of his scholastical education, he's going to bust hell wide open. Our advisor is the Holy Spirit. And who is our mentor? Jesus Christ. All the college in the world won't do you any good outside of the Holy Bible of God. Listen to Brother Peter. If you are failing in any of these points, you need to kick yourself in the butt, get this pride out of your life, get this anger and greed out of your life, get this bitterness and resentment out of your life, get your moral impurities out of your life. Get your conversation chaste. Get yourself right with God. I have so many people say, hey, I'm saved, I'm going to heaven, I'm a Christian. No, they hadn't yet seen Jesus. They haven't yet seen Jesus. Stuff that comes out of their mouth. I do not believe. I haven't turned my television on now. 3 months before my wife went to heaven, we didn't turn the television on. I haven't turned it on yet. And won't turn it on. I visited a man the other day. And he's watching TV. And the Lord gave me the unction to be able to say to him, sir, you going to continue to watch that TV? Or are you going to listen to me? I came over. God sent me over here to visit you, to talk to you. I'm fixing to leave. He got up and turned the television off. I opened up. We opened up our, this is called Wilmington's Guide to the Bible. We opened up a conversation. I said, you need one of these books called Wilmington's Guide to the Bible. We opened up our telephone and looked and found one for $9. I handed his boy $9. I said, buy that book for your dad. And he bought it. And last time I was over there, he's got that book. I said, you know that book's only good if you open it. It's only good if you read it. It's only good if you act upon it. What is it? It's a help book. Wilmington's Guide to the Bible is a help book on the Bible, and it's based on the King James Version. It's a help book. I still got them little old ticks running around. Listen, we have got to get going as Christians. I see those poor folks fighting the rigors of college as hard as they can in vain for where they're headed. If we're not headed for where Jesus wants us and doing what Jesus wants us to do, we have failed in college. We have failed in the spiritual college of Jesus Christ. Well, this is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. May God bless you. May God encourage you to get in the Word, get the junk out of your life, and get going, and be embarrassed if you don't mention Jesus when you walk out the door in the morning, if you don't mention Jesus to the first person that you meet, if you don't mention Jesus during the day. You need to check your life out. Jesus is the spiritual life that flows through your heart and your body. If you treat your spiritual life, if you treated your blood life like you treat your spiritual life, you'd probably die dead before the day is over. So are you alive or not? Let's get the junk out of our life. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.